Welcome to Sales Talk, the sales TV show where we talk all things sale. This week we're focusing on pre-call planning, and the pre-call plan is one of the steps in the sales process that I have personally seen neglected by business owners, sellers and sales teams more than I like to think of. It's one of those steps where we rely on our memory, our previous track record, our previous sales call, and we allow that to inform and create the position from where we start the next one, without considering the unique nature of every sales opportunity and every individual that we're selling to. Later on in the show, we're going to talk to Phil Hornby of SOT Consulting about how he uses sales pre-call planning in his approach to sales, and I'm sure you're going to like it. But just before we go there, I just want to give you a few things about pre-call planning. Pre-call planning for me is about staying in control, keeping control of that sales conversation so you're actually moving the sale forward. It's putting yourself in the shoes of your customer. I mean, how many times have you actually sold something and not even considered from their perspective what it is that they want to hear from you? Without doubt, what you are doing is you are reducing your reliance on luck. I've already mentioned that in my first comments about you just put it down to something you've done before. Let's reduce luck and turn sales into something you're more likely to succeed at. I mean, because what you do with a pre-call plan is you're absolutely clear on your next step. You know where you are in the sales process. You know where your buyer is in their buying journey. And you know what the next step it is you need to make in that next sales call or sales conversation. One of the things that you also get out of pre-call planning is a really comprehensive way to capture that important customer information that helps you feed future pre-call plans to help drive successful sales outcomes. So with those in mind, take a look at the video from when I interviewed Phil Hornby, and I'll see you back here very soon. Welcome to Sales Talk, the TV show where we talk about all things sales. I'm here with Phil Hornby from SOT Consulting. Phil, hello.
Hi Steve, great to be here.
Tell everybody what you're all about.
So SOT Consulting, fundamentally, we're a product management training consulting organization. We fundamentally help entrepreneurial product teams to be successful.
Okay, now I don't understand what that is. Tell me a little bit. So how might the viewers recognize how you could help them?
So, for example, if they're in an industry that's been disrupted, or they're really struggling in how to bring technology in, they might use words like digital disruption or digital transformation, and they're hard to get right. They might be thinking about things like agile or lean, and they've heard the words but don't really know what it means. How do they apply that to their business?
Yeah, I've in my Shell days, I remember agile, stripping out all the excess and all of the things that could go wrong, and really doing some sort of analysis of the root cause or opportunities. And lean, I remember lean. So remind me about lean.
So lean fundamentally starts out from Toyota days. So it's the Toyota production process, and it has technique concepts such as small batch size. So do the smallest thing you can to learn. It started in the manufacturing world, but the same principles have then been applied into software development or product development. And so doing experiments to learn, to build, to understand what customers really want, because we all are pretty bad at predicting it.
Yeah, so I mean, you might not have known this, but when I was a sales rep in Shell a long time ago, I used to sell fuel, and one of my customers was Toyota at Burniston on the A38. And I do remember the challenge of delivery slots and load sizes, and actually the pressure and the stress this put on us as a supplier, and the demands that the customer was putting on. So I recognise what you're saying, and maybe folks now can connect to that as well.
Right, so that sounds very much like just-in-time delivery, which is part of that lean manufacturing process.
Right.
And Funny enough, Shell was one of my customers to return the same story.
There we go. So we closed the loop. So that's great. So I mean, we're gonna talk here today about your sales and your sales journey as such. And one aspect, we're going to focus in on this show on pre-call planning. And people that follow my sales mindset coach syllabus know that I love an acronym, and they know that I have one for a pre-call plan, and it's called
WOPPA.
WOPPA, brilliant, brilliant. We might uncover how you know that and why you know that as we go through. But I believe pre-call planning is one of the most fundamental steps, to use your word, fundamental steps on how a seller can improve their effectiveness, their efficiency, and their results. Yeah. So Phil, tell us about your sales approach.
So I'll be honest, it's fairly ad hoc, fairly inconsistent. I'm trying to get better, which is part of the reason why I've been on a few of your courses to try and kind of understand what good looks like, and because that's fundamentally part of my approach. I am quite academic in my approach to many things. I like to understand what other people think and how general approaches to it before I then figure out my own way. So my process is fairly simplistic. It's quite opportunistic at this point, where I see people to talk to, opportunities. I would say really at the moment it's more focused on establishing a network, because at the moment I've been doing what I do for about 2 years.
Yeah.
But I go all over the world on certain things, and I have a client that looks after me and kind of finds opportunities for me doing that. But doing things under my own banner is where I'm struggling. Yeah. And I have a young child, so I'd quite like to minimise the amount of travel on that, if I'm honest. Yeah. So looking around the Sheffield City region, but I've done roles all over the world, living in the same area, and I have virtually no network. Yeah. So I'm really working on how do I build those connections, build that network, build that credibility with those people, to then hopefully build on that to deliver a sustainable pipeline.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting. I mean, hopefully being on the TV show will connect you with people, right? But I mean, sales is a process. Sales is a process, and I think if you like to establish and understand what good looks like, then that's a good place to start, isn't it? Because if you accept that sales is a process, and there are steps in that, and there are segments of that process that can be improved, segments of that process that have a best practice, segments of that process that you have an impact, then that's a good place to start. Because one of the challenges that I find with business owners, who and can't blame them for not necessarily having the sales heartbeat that somebody like myself, so 30 years in sales, has, to say, well, in your business now you have to be able to sell as well. That's also a challenge. So one of the steps in the sales process is the pre-call plan. It is the planning phase where we actually set ourselves up and do a little bit of thinking about what it is we want to achieve. You have, I know, used pre-call planning as part of your recent approach to sales.
I even used it before today.
Right, there we go. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So it's not just for selling; it's for preparation.
I use it as a pre-meeting preparation almost. Before it's probably the one area I'm really giving some focus of. Choose one area to win, choose one habit to build. Yeah. So if I can be better planned, better prepared going into the room, then that gives me a better foundation, a better starting point to springboard from. So
what kind of benefits? Not maybe not some of the tangible benefits. We'll come on to that, but maybe the softer benefits have you found through a pre-call plan? And the WOPPA is the template, but what is it that you found in the softer benefits of pre-call planning?
Kind of, in particular, use one of your terms, anticipating. Yeah. So knowing or having a feeling for where the other party is going to be, what their expectations are, what they're thinking about, actually putting myself into their shoes, right? Instead of approaching it purely from my perspective, thinking about, well, what are they thinking? that's allowed me to think, well, how do I help them? Because ultimately that hopefully helps me as well. It's because it's a two-way process. So understanding their positioning, their interests and I feel it's helped build a bit more rapport. I feel it's helped go in with reasonable expectations as well.
Yeah.
I understood where their positioning was as well as my own, and therefore understanding what a good outcome was for both parties was much easier.
I mean, it's an interesting. I mean, we jump to the A, which is the fifth of the steps in the WOPPA, but actually, I often say, it's the one that is neglected the most, right? So that to the phrase "putting yourselves in the customer's shoes," and one of the things that we are guilty of and have the risk of is selling how we like to buy, right? Not selling how our buyer likes to buy. And there's a danger in that, because we miss, to your point, we miss some of the value we can create. And that part about anticipating, I mean, the perception of your customer must change fundamentally as well, right? That they are, they're hearing somebody that recognises their challenges, recognises their industry, from their perspective. So that has an impact not only on how you're perceived, but I wonder, does it also have an impact on some of your behaviours?
I would have thought so, because you're not taken us by surprise necessarily by something in particular. If you're empathising with them, then it's more likely you're going to be helpful and supportive to the customer, and also you're not going to be surprised by the things that they bring out, because you've thought about them.
Yeah.
You've thought about, well, okay, this could be an objection. Actually, I understand that, but reality is it's this area. I mean, and I think the structure, and in particular that part, resonates with me a lot, because it comes back to some of the stuff I teach in my own training.
Yeah.
It's all about getting back to the why.
Yeah.
When you're developing a product, delivering something to a customer, that's what it's about. It's not about, I want to build this thing that, if we build it, they will come mindset.
Satisfies my mind. Yeah.
Which comes back to how I want to buy, what I want to create.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there's often some power in solving your own problem, scratching your own itch, as we sometimes call it. But if nobody else cares about it, then it's valueless. Yeah. So being able to really get under the customer's skin or step into their shoes is a powerful thing in the product management world. Yeah. And so that part of the pre-course planning really resonates with me.
Yeah. And so if we think about WOPPA as a step, the pre-call plan, and you've highlighted that one of the powerful aspects is that anticipate part, because we're able to do the thinking, we're able to prepare a response, we're able to understand where our client's coming from. I think considering many people who are watching this are business owners that do stuff other than selling, right? They manufacture, they import, they distribute, they creative, they're not salespeople, they just happen to have to sell.
Well, I mean, one of the key things that frustrates me is the stream of LinkedIn or similar requests I get from people saying, we can find you 53 highly qualified sales calls every month. I don't want 53. I want 2.
Yeah.
I want those 2 that convert every month.
Yeah.
And that keeps me busy.
Yeah.
53 means I'm then spending time on probably 51 sales calls that I can't service anyway.
Yeah.
And that's not where I add value to them or anybody else. So it's about really being in the room where I can add value and for them, and there's a reciprocal relationship.
Well, to the point there, it kind of puts you in control as well, doesn't it? Because you're right. If you, I mean, we talked in a previous episode of Sales Talk about pipeline management and filling the pipeline. And there's a realism here about how much do I actually want in my pipeline to be able to service it, right? To not overpromise. And pre-call planning, it puts you in that mindset, doesn't it? Because It has you thinking about, timelines. It has you thinking about delivery, resource. It helps you thinking about the offer. It helps you thinking about all of the things that are really important.
Yeah.
And if you're not from a selling background, having those conversations with clients and prospects can sometimes be the difficult conversations that you might not want to have, because we're actually talking here and I feel a bit uncomfortable. So I've heard it said, and I just dangerous question to ask in an interview, but I've heard it said that pre-call planning and the WOPPA itself gives me more confidence in my approach, because I've done the research, I've done the thinking, I have the response. I therefore go into that meeting with more clarity about my position, my next step. So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the key word I'd focus on is the clarity word there. Forgive me, but I'm someone who doesn't suffer from a lack of confidence. So more confidence might be dangerous.
Right.
But clarity in knowing my purpose in the room, why I'm there, what I can anticipate as an outcome, what's going to be useful to them, and therefore maybe staying a little bit more on track. I have quite an ease of going off on a tangent.
Yeah.
So actually that clarity and focus that comes from it, for me, hopefully making it more effective, therefore.
Yeah. And so it's very interesting. You said you prepared a WOPPA before you come in for a bit of filming, right? So that's for a reason. What was that reason?
So my reason, twofold. One is, as members of my network, people like yourself, Steve, I know that this is useful and valuable to you. So it's about network building, relationship building. But on the other side of that, I'm on camera.
Yeah.
There's some exposure. It's to therefore getting out to your network to get some additional coverage in the local area. So I like to think of that it's giving with one hand and receiving with another. So it's plus to both sides.
Yeah, and the preparation side of it, before we sit down, I guess you've managed to get some thinking at least about what are the key points I want to get over, right? And the reason I mentioned that is that you spoke about control, keeping control, and I've seen people use the pre-call plan as an agenda in a meeting, almost sequential, following the 5 steps. Why? Why are we here? What are we talking about today? The objectives. What are we here to achieve? The plan. What do I know about? What do I want? How am I going to achieve that? The premise. What do I know about the situation? And anticipate. What do I anticipate? And I've seen people actually use that as an agenda to share before a meeting.
Yeah, I can understand. I think there's some elements of it that you might think are internally focused, and maybe it's a little bit too much transparency by sharing everything. But the structure, I think. I mean, I think I've said in the past, I've played around with slight variations on the structure myself.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I kind of came back to the conclusion, I was just coming up with lots of synonyms. I was talking about needs, their needs and my needs, but actually they fit in parts of the WOPPA. So I was basically just playing around with it for the sake of playing around.
Well,
with it.
yeah, I mean, I think all these things we can definitely make them more relevant and specific to our businesses. And like anything in my syllabus, I really hope that's what people do. The core purpose of the pre-call plan is to take the luck out of the meeting, right? And it's to actually put you in control as a seller, so you are getting better outcomes. And if you do need confidence, it gives you that extra layer of confidence because I know what I'm like. If I sort of have moved, and I've done this in the past, I've moved from one sales call to the next, and I've actually relied on my experience and my luck and my previous conversation to form the next meeting. And I've remembered being in that next meeting and it not going how that last one went. And then guess what? I didn't get the result I wanted. my learning was if I just sit down for 10 minutes before each sales call, and that could be on the phone, that could be physically visiting as well, and just get that unique perspective of that unique opportunity, my outcomes are better because of that. So I'm thinking now about how you take WOPPA into your sales meetings. Have you used that version or your version, and have you seen any kind of outcomes that have provided something you can tie back to? I wouldn't have thought of that, or I might have not had that response had I not taken the time to have prepared for that call, that phone call, that physical meeting.
I can't think of any specific cases, but to be honest, I've only done probably 3 or 4 sales calls since I started using it. What I have found is that I'm more prepared, more ready for the session, and the outcomes I get tend to be the outcomes I expected before I went in.
Yeah.
As opposed to going in more open-ended, not really knowing. Yeah. And this is, you don't know this about me, but I actually did do sales for a while in the past. Not very successfully, I will admit. What I was more successful at was on a more account management level, where you had that strong relationship, that established rapport, where essentially you're going in and building on that platform you already had. And so almost that pre-call planning, that preparation was something that's been ongoing for a long time, so it became embedded. And what I'm kind of reflected on is I'm talking to a lot of new people. And so the pre-call planning is putting me in that position of feeling that level of comfort and understanding that I had in those account management situations where I was successful in the past. Yeah. And so that's what it's really giving me.
Well, so I think this is a really, really interesting point, because it is about intelligence, right? So if we are watching this and we're into new sales, pre-call planning will help you focus on the outcome, the objective that you want to achieve. But if you are in that relationship nurturing phase as well, it helps you build on, it helps you collect intelligence. It helps you collect important information because you're preparing not only the questions that you need to have answered to go to the next phase, it feeds your post-call plan, which in essence then feeds your next pre-call plan, right? So post-call planning is another step in the sales process. But this whole piece about not just winning new business, but nurturing existing clients. So not only can you upsell, range sell, but you can look after them, right? You can continue to add value. Is I think a really important part, not only of the sales process, but a really important part of where that pre-call plan fits in, because it makes sure that you're always considering, am I adding value? Am I moving something forward? Have I considered the next steps? So I like the connection you make to the fact that it's not necessarily intrinsically linked to new business hunting, new business selling, but is equally as valuable to relationship management and nurturing clients. So don't lose the discipline of pre-call planning just because they're a customer.
Yeah, and I think in the past it'd been almost, the pre-call planning was just tacit knowledge, whereas now I'm making a much more active step in how I interact and how I prepare and plan for sessions. It just means that I'm now in a position that instead of forgetting what I said I was going to do last time, or forgetting what the outcomes from the last time, thinking about post-call reporting, it's there, it's available, and I'm, instead of just walking in and winging it, which every once in a while will go really successfully, we'll also, but luck is not a strategy. It puts you in a hopefully more consistent place.
Yeah, and when I talking to folks watching here, I mean, if you've ever left a sales meeting, or you've finished on that phone, you've put it down and you've gone to make a coffee, and you've gone, darn it, I wish I had said that. I wish that's what I meant to do, right? And maybe you've just recognised that, and I'm sure people at home are as well. That can be reduced The risk of that is vastly reduced just by spending that few moments to make sure that you are mitigating that happening. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things. If you're someone there that has gone, yeah, that's me, just jump into the website at thesalesmindsetcoach.com, and in there is a blog with a template for WOPPA. And there is actually a training course on the website, a video-based training course. It's only £10. It's really cheap. And it will talk you through the WOPPA process and structure, so you can stop having those moments where you go, darn it, I wish I'd asked that. And right at the very beginning, Phil, you spoke about being more effective and more efficient. That's the point.
Yeah.
You actually reduce a number of things. You can reduce the number of sales calls you make to convert. You can reduce the amount of time you spend revisiting the same material. And you can therefore, because you're adding value to the client and you're creating clarity. So I think this is really, really good. Probably a bit early to measure results.
Indeed. But like I sort of said earlier on, what I'm purposely doing is choosing one habit to add at a time. So the pre-call planning is the first habit to add to my sales approach. I've very much learned in the past, if you try to change too many things at once, you fall down, you fail. So choosing one thing to move forwards on and embed that, make that standard part of my approach, and then layer on additional practices like post-call reporting. Yeah. I mean, I've made a small step at the end of the WOPPA. I just had an A. I had actions. So these are the things that I need to follow up with, and that's my current. That's my small bridge towards post-call planning, just to make sure I capture those sorts of things. But it just means that I'm absolutely embedding what I do in the room for the call, and I don't lose track of what I need to do afterwards.
Well, this is of course for smaller businesses. This is one of the massive challenges, isn't it? It's about remembering, following up, because we do so much. We do so much stuff that actually just sometimes that discipline of writing things down, recording things, using the CRM tools, is really, really important, that we get reminders, that we don't lose that intelligence, that when we then present ourselves to our prospects and clients the next time, we're picking up at the relevant and right point, that the perception we create is the one of professionalism. And a sales process, if you follow it as a sales process and you start with that, we've started by filling our funnel with the right opportunities, but then you start the physical sales process of pre-call planning, my belief is that you're setting yourself up to be more successful than if you do. Here's hoping. Look, Phil, I've really enjoyed that discussion, and I think it's really fascinating to hear how a business like yours has some similarities to all sorts of businesses when it comes to sales. I think it's fascinating that how you've taken this step-by-step approach to your sales, learning, development, improvements, whatever it is. And it's great that WOPPA is playing part of it. Just to remind everybody that's watching on the line, tell everybody again what you do, where they can find you. Okay,
so we help entrepreneurial product teams be successful. So that's people delivering product, delivering value to customers. You can find us at SOTconsulting.com.
Nice one. Thanks a lot, Phil. Thanks, Phil. I really enjoyed filming with you and interviewing you about pre-call planning. It's amazing to see how whatever kind of business that you have, pre-call planning should be forming part of your sales process. Because what you're trying to do, folks, is take that luck away from selling. I mean, think about this, just one thing to leave you with here. The perception that pre-call planning creates in the mind of your prospective client or your customer is one that you care. You care about their time, you care about their problem, and you actually care about how your solution fits in to create that magical win-win that I always talk about. So don't forget pre-call planning. Jump onto the website, thesalesmindsetcoach.com, and why don't you just take that very simple video-based course, or even just jump back into the blog about pre-call planning and download the WOPPA template. I'm sure you're going to get some great value from that and take the luck out of your sales. We'll see you next time on Sales Talk.